Watch how Nigel Farage delivers a fiery challenge to Labour and the political establishment over the migrant boat crisis. As crossings continue and public frustration grows, Farage argues that Britain's leaders have ignored the problem for years. His controversial solution sparks one of the most explosive debates yet. Before we continue, hit like and subscribe to Britain Daily for more explosive political coverage. Let's watch this explosive clip.
But perhaps it's on illegal immigration that I do really want to make a point. 4 years ago, I went out into the English Channel repeatedly, filming dinghies coming across the channel, dinghies with an average of 16 people per boat. I was described as being a sad, lonely, desperate figure, always seeking attention. And I've no doubt there are some that think that's still the case today. Thank you. But I did it because it was obvious to me what was going to happen. It was obvious that there would be a huge influx of people illegally coming to Britain across the English Channel. And it would happen because we'd stopped deporting people who came to Britain illegally. And perhaps the Labour Party might want to reflect themselves on the last period of Labour government, where we had Home Secretaries like David Blunkett, far, far to the right of people like the Shadow Home Secretary today. You came to Britain illegally during the last Labour government. Your feet didn't touch the sides. You were gone, you were out. Indeed, in the last year of the Labour government, from 2009 to 10, 50,000 people who came here illegally were deported. Now, none of that happens anymore. It didn't happen under 14 years of Conservatives, and it clearly isn't going to happen under this Labour government. And I wonder why. I think you'll find it's the increased role of a court overseas that was set up in the wake of World War II with the very, very best of intentions that has now completely outlived its usefulness. It is, of course, called the ECHR, the European Court of Human Rights, and it was the Labour government that enshrined the convention into British law. We will not stop the boats, even if we sent a handful to Rwanda. We will not stop the boats by attempting to smash the criminal gangs. We've been doing that to the drugs industry in Britain year after year, decade after decade, with no success whatsoever. The financial rewards for smuggling people across the English Channel can now net a gang 2 to 3 million euros a week. Whatever prison sentences or penalties are put upon them, there will always be people volunteering to make millions of euros a week. We will only stop this if we start deporting people that come illegally. Then they won't pay the smugglers. But we'll only do that by leaving the ECHR. But I've got a fun suggestion that I think would liven up politics, engage the public, and see a massively increased turnout. Why don't we have a referendum on whether we continue to be members of the ECHR?
What a remarkable intervention from Nigel Farage. In this speech, Farage didn't just criticise Labour, he challenged decades of political decisions that he believes have contributed to the migrant boat crisis facing Britain today.
Richard Tice.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Well, we have heard from Britain's most unpopular, possibly the worst Prime Minister ever. After just 22 months, Madam Deputy Speaker, all we have had is failure, incompetence and negligence. And we have a programme of government in this King's Speech that in a sense represents everything that this Prime Minister currently that we suffer under represents: process and regulation. My other deepest concern of all in this programme of government, Madam Deputy Speaker, is that in a sense I am joyous, we at Reform are joyous. We've just completely smashed it last Thursday in the local elections when voters said, after May 2025 and the success of our brilliant 10 councils where we have majority control, voters have said we want more reform. They have said they've given us 10 more councils to have full control of, another 9 more councils where we are the largest party. But I give way to the honourable lady.
And for giving way, he mentions Bradford District and notes the fact that Reform got the largest number of seats. But will he also recognise that the vast majority, 3/4 of people across the Bradford District, voted for parties other than Reform UK? And will he recognise that whilst they got seats, they are not popular?
Clearly, if we've just won and become the largest party in Bradford, by definition, we must be popular. Now, obviously, I'd like to please everybody, but the data shows that we have secured some 1,450 new councillors, and I think the Labour Party have lost well over 1,000 new councillors to the benefit of our great country, Madam. Is that they now think it's a good idea, having listened to the voters from last week who've said we want in the Midlands and in the North, in those Labour heartlands, who voted 10 years ago, they wanted less EU, they wanted less European interference. What is this government's brilliant response? How have they listened to the voters from last week? They have stuck two fingers up to the former Labour voters in the Midlands, in the Northern heartlands, and they said, we're going to ignore you. We're going to try and go back to the failing European Union. And that surely heightens the arrogance and the stubbornness of this dreadful government.
Joe Robertson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The security of energy, the price of energy, is something that affects every household. That's why the Secretary of State, when he was in opposition during the last election, promised to cut household energy bills by £300. But instead, in government, he's presided over an increase in household energy bills of £200. That is his record as he sets his sights on his next job, the job he so desperately craves. That is the job of replacing the Prime Minister. After I give way.
Just the energy so-called savings package that Liz Truss put in place cost £44 billion and has left this country in profound debt.
I acknowledge the last government made mistakes. I don't have a problem with that. But it's not an excuse for her government to do even worse on some of those hardships for hard-up working families. No excuse to her government whatsoever. Bonkers green taxes harm the debate. So I'll give way to the Honourable Lady to try again.
Briefly on the point, 14 years the Tories had and they did nothing.
I generally say to the Honourable Lady, the reason her government is in such a mess and polling at under 20% is because she and her colleagues think the universal excuse for her government's inaction is to blame a previous government. She won that argument at the last election, and since then her government has done nothing. So I say to the front bench, it is bonkers green levies which make no sense, which harm ordinary people, which undermine their entire case for their green agenda.
His central argument was that successive governments have failed to deter illegal crossings, leaving taxpayers frustrated and communities demanding answers. For many viewers, this issue goes far beyond politics. It touches on questions of fairness, border security, public services, and trust in government. People work hard, pay taxes, and expect those in power to have control over who enters the country. When they feel that control has been lost, anger and concern naturally follow. Farage argued that simply targeting criminal gangs is not enough, and that stronger measures are needed to stop the crossings. His suggestion of putting the issue directly to the British public through a referendum is certain to divide opinion, but it also highlights how emotionally charged this debate has become. Supporters will say he is raising concerns that millions of voters share. Critics will argue that the solutions are far more complicated than they appear. Either way, one thing is clear. Immigration and border control remain among the biggest political issues in Britain today, and the pressure on Labour is only increasing. Now we want to hear from you. Do you agree with Nigel Farage's assessment of the crisis, or do you think Labour has the right approach? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this coverage, hit like, subscribe to Britain Daily, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest political clashes, debates, and breaking news from Westminster.